What's up, YouTube? It's Dweebo. I'm a week late with this to give my thoughts on E3 2016. Had a lot to say about this, a lot to talk about here. I'm a little late, but who cares? We're going to get right into it with Microsoft, which the past couple of years I've not cared about Microsoft. They haven't put out games that I've cared about. I'm more of a Sony guy, not in a fanboy way, just in like, man, these games don't appeal to me. These experiences don't appeal to me. I was a huge Xbox 360 guy last gen. I was a kid growing up. I loved Sony, but man, just something this gen with the Xbox One, it just hasn't done it for me. PS4's hadn't had the games. And again, that's how I feel about this keynote. They start off with a Xbox One S, which, hey, I got to give it to them. I hate that it's white. It needs to be black. I don't like having anything white on my shelves or whatever. I like the black aesthetic to everything with my devices. But it did look smaller. My big complaint with Xbox One was that it just looks like a VCR player. That thing is ginormous. It's huge. If you drop it on your toe, don't even go to the hospital because your foot is gone. It's just get rid of it. They showed off Gears of War 4, which again with Mass Effect Andromeda. I wasn't a huge fan of Gears of War. I played the first one. This one has like weather effects. It looks pretty cool, but again, I had the same feeling watching this was, well, you know, to the next generation, I get that off, enjoy, have fun. Kids are going to have that. Teenagers are going to pick that up, and kids, like I think it's rated M, but whatever. But pick that game up for the first time with the chainsaw effect, and have a good time. So cool. Next, Dead Rising 4, which didn't. Dead Rising 1 played the demo on 360, had a great time. That's all I needed. That was a great demo, but the game came out and it had a time limit, and then the second one and third one, I just didn't really care about it, and here we are, I just still don't care about. But it looks like funny, just wacky fun, so I say do it, but personally not caring about that game. Next up, Recore. Man, they showed this last year, and that was the only thing I was interested in last year from their conference of 2015. It looked like this mysterious, adventurous game. Mega Man creator was involved with it. I think some other big devs' names were kind of thrown out there working on this project. And I lost all interest after seeing the gameplay this year. It had this bouncing electronic trailer soundtrack, and it's like, man, you just like, the aesthetic and the kind of feel they had in that trailer reminded me of Dead Island, and in the sense that Dead Island was shown to be this more emotional, crazy thing, which turned out into chop down zombies and then run around the island. I'm sure it'll maybe still be a fun game, but now my interest has gone away. Final Fantasy 15's got shown off there, which we've seen. Final Fantasy 15, they did a big event recently. That game is my most anticipated game for this year. That and Last Guardian are neck and neck. They're tied. So anticipating those games. But man, this demo, the frames look like it dropped. People were kind of making me nervous online to the point where I was just ignoring all of it. I got so my heart is so big into this game that this Titan is throwing his fist or whatever, and he's going through it. I don't know, people were saying that the game, like the guy playing it was kind of nervous, didn't get it good, but people played it on the show floor later and said, this is a different version. That's what they said, was like, we're playing a different version, an updated version than what was shown at the conference. Why couldn't you put the show booth version up there? I know that they probably practiced with this version that was on the stage, but that version sucked. It made the game look awful, and they were morons, absolute morons for showing it, because it spooked a lot of people. Not me, because I'm strapped in the hype train. I'll go off the mountain with them. But kind of spooky. We Happy Few. Now, seeing it at the conference, and then my afterthoughts about it are totally different. When they first showed it, it was like, wow, this could be a Bioshocky, narrative-driven game. Looks really fun. I looked up gameplay of that thing, and guys, run away from that. That is a piece of garbage-looking thing. It looked like a last-gen game at certain points. I was bored to tears watching the gameplay, and I double-checked to make sure I wasn't watching an early build or a beta thing. I know I know they still got some time to finish it, but man, I looked at the gameplay I was watching. It was uploaded last month, so buzz off. It lost all interest, and it looks like another case of just like, here's the presentation, but the game itself actually sucks. Man, just don't make the game, or don't make the trailer like that. Just make what it actually is. Next up is Sea of Thieves, which is Rare's new game. They showed that last year a little bit. I've kind of lost all interest in Rare. They did a lot of the Connect stuff, but they kind of neutered that company. A lot of them went off to join Playtonic Games, which is making the new Yooka-Laylee, which looks great. And I'm not really interested in Rare anymore. But surprisingly, this has gotten a lot of good press at the show. People played it and said they had a blast with it. I think it's won a lot of awards on the E3 show floor from different sites or whatever. So it looks, I guess it's pretty good, but to me, it does not interest me in the slightest. Joining together and fighting pirate thieves in cartoony world, I'm kind of just, I don't know, that just did not appeal to me. Scalebound, which I love Platinum. I love the Bayonetta. I played recently, what else did I play from them? Bayonetta 2. I also have Wonderful 101, which I'm about to get to, but I really enjoyed their games. They had the creator Hideki Kamina, however you say it. He's on Twitter. Check him out. He also did Devil May Cry, so he's fast, like action games or whatever. Pretty fun. And this looks like more of that big battles, boss battles and stuff with dragons. I will definitely keep an eye on it. It's Xbox One and PC. Oh, I should get to that too. Exclusive, so I'm glad it's coming to PC because I don't own an Xbox One. They showed off, I forgot to mention this, indie games. But you know what? Throw out every indie game you saw, because Cuphead, again, is another game that's high on my list of like, I gotta check this game out. The art style looks like 1930s, Max Fletcher, kind of old cartoons. So into that. That looks cool. They delayed it to add kind of side-scrolling because it was only boss battles at first, so I'm glad they did that. I didn't want just a boss kind of thing. I would have played it regardless because of how great it looked, but that's cool. So I hope that comes out this year. They still didn't mention a release date, which spooked me. But maybe that'll come at the end of the year still, but might be delayed another, again into another year. I hope not, but take all the time you need. They're hand-drawing that stuff. Wowzoo, that's a lot of work. Before I get to the final thing, how they ended the keynote, they, from the start, when they kept showing trailers every 2 seconds for Xbox One and Windows 10 exclusive. They kept saying that, Xbox One and Windows 10 exclusive, every 2 seconds. And going into this, we were kind of led to believe Xbox would be turning into a more iterative thing. And this kind of confirmed it. This whole conference was, hey, we are backing away from traditional console cycles. You're going to be buying these iterative consoles here. I hope you enjoy it. And that's what we have. The Xbox One is a Steam box, basically. You're going to be able to buy these. Everything's built in. You play the game. Boom, you're ready to go. But if you want to go kind of the PC-only route and you already if you don't really care about too many exclusives from some of these developers, well, actually, they're getting some exclusives. Maybe you should just get a PC. For people that are kind of more tech-minded, go ahead and get a PC. And for all the years that people have said, PC gaming is going to take over, we're finally seeing the fruits of that. From years and years ago, people kept saying that consoles would eventually just be PCs. In a sense, consoles will still exist, but this is interesting that they threw all their exclusives to Windows 10 as well as Xbox One. And the only one I can think of now that isn't on PC that they kept on Xbox One is Halo. And to me, Halo does not have the same weight as it used to, the last gen and the previous gen before that. So what are we waiting on? Let's get those on there. Let's put it out on PC and just get that extra revenue. That's crazy to me that they still haven't done that. Project Scorpio, talking about the iterative consoles again. And that was really weird because they're not selling well. The Xbox Ones are not selling to their expectations, but yet they're announcing another Xbox they want you to buy, along with the Slim at the beginning of the thing. Should you buy the Slim now? Do you wait? That just didn't make sense at all to me from like a marketing standpoint. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe that was the smartest thing they could do. But man, I did see some other people online going, do I buy, they want me to buy this Xbox One Slim, but a new one's coming out next year. Some people are like, I just bought the Xbox One a couple months ago. Do I have to buy another thing? And I think the marketing right now with Sony and Microsoft with these new iterative kind of consoles, the PS4K, Neo, whatever you want to call it, man, they're really going to have to kind of, I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen to the game industry, traditional console cycles. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes. My final review for the Microsoft conference was, if I had to give it on a kind of letter scale, I do my review scales. I say classic or rad or you can play it. Maybe I would say you can play it or like a C. Just nothing. I even forgot to mention, it's so forgettable, another for Forza Horizon game. A lot of people love those games. They have a blast with them, but I feel like every single E3 or every other one is a new Horizon game. How many of those do we need? You press X to go forward. I don't know. It's not really doing it for me, and I didn't really care for this conference. So yet again, I think since 2013 with this new generation, I've not really cared about Microsoft in the slightest. I'd even say in the past generation, PS3 360, the second half, I liked PS3 way better by then. So, a real disappointment. And also, they kept, having these developers talk forever and ever and stuff. And we've had that for so many years. And then the next person about to talk about the next conference solved all that. They just destroyed on that. And that was my favorite, I should say, the Sony conference. This thing, you can go, I'll link it into the description. Next year, I hope to get all the conferences like this way. I did reactions with my friends. You can see it on there. And we had a really fun time doing it. And it was such an excitement from beginning to end. You can see in the reactions, we're not, trying to play anything. We were genuinely excited about everything that was announced. And real quick on that too, some of the reactions got cut out. It sucked. Missed some of those. The Spider-Man one and the end of the Kojima's game, which I'm really just upset that got cut out. But please understand. Sony starts out with this big orchestra, and man, it just goes into God of War, which I have 0% interest in God of War. And at the end of that, I had 100% interest in God of War. For them wanting to just kind of reboot the series of giving a whole new feel, that's how you do a reboot. And that got my interest. Again, I've never played any of the God of Wars, never had a care to. But if they kind of add a kind of more mature feeling. And this whole conference just, the whole thing just you could feel the influence of Last of Us. And that and the Days Gone kind of more narrative, adult, kind of respecting of the consumers' like intelligence. That's how Last of Us felt to me, was, hey, we respect you. You can take this story. You can kind of interpret some stuff. There's going to be emotional points in that. Awesome. So I love that they did that to God of War. Good to go on that again. People were worried it's not going to be more hack and slash and arcadey. And I guess people said, the developers came out and said, no, that'll be in there. We chose to show this. So these moments are cool, and I hope there's, that kind of spaced in with the old kind of hack and slash. Yeah, let's do it. Next up was Days Gone, which at first you could see in the reaction video that we did, we kind of thought that was Last of Us. We thought that we were getting Last of Us 2 here, but that wasn't the case. But again, it felt like an adult kind of themed game. You're a spiker in apocalypse, whatever, fighting these zombies. It looked cool. I'm not super interested in it, but it wasn't. It kind of piqued my interest, and I'll keep my eye on this one. The Last Guardian got a release date. Oh my goodness, The Last Guardian got a release date. I've been waiting on that game forever. I loved the Ico and Shadow Colossus games. Getting a release date to that was a miracle, and it just was really fun to just finally see that is for sure coming out. For so many years it felt like, is it canceled? Is it gone? To see it here, man, it's just overwhelming. Next up was Detroit Become Human, and I At first, you can see by the reactions, I didn't really care for this. So the kind of facial animations looked kind of weird. But once it started getting in, you got these choices. You got to save this girl, all this kind of stuff. I thought that was really, really cool. Also with that, I love Heavy Rain. I love Beyond Two Souls. I still need to play Indigo Prophecy from David Cage. His games are very weird and cheesy. Some people go into these and say, oh, he's such a crock. Oh my gosh, there's so many corny parts. That's what the fun is it to me. Like playing with people. I got my girlfriend playing Beyond Two Souls. She loved it. And like these kind of games are more sit down and just crack up at certain parts. This part looked maybe more emotional, but I'm sure there's going to be things that are just going to make us laugh again with this type of storytelling. I don't know. It's fun to me. It's a roller coaster ride, and I'm pumped for Detroit Become Human. I'm not sure when that's going to come out. They didn't really put a release date. I'd say late 2017, maybe 2018, because I don't think they were ready to talk about anything release date wise. Horizon Zero Dawn, that got delayed right before the conference started, but I'm glad it did because there's so much good stuff coming out at the end of this year. It deserved to get its own kind of time, and that's February 2017. The game looks cool. You're fighting robot dinosaurs, but you're prehistoric. Doesn't make sense to me in the slightest, but it looks awesome. And we were watching, I don't know if this made the cut at all. I think it got cut off as well in our reactions. Man, watching this with it getting on the robotic like horse thing and running off, it's like, man, Nintendo's only showing Zelda. They've only got Zelda, which they did show Pokemon and some other games. But man, like that was their bread and butter, and this looks beautiful, and you're running around on this horse thing. I don't know, Nintendo, so that we were kind of laughing about that, but it looks great. I'll check it out. I'm into this. Maybe not a day one, but absolutely looking forward to getting my hands on that game. Next up, huge surprise. They're showing VR, which I am a day one. I'm getting the PSVR. They started showcasing all these PSVR games. Farpoint, which at first we were kind of sitting there kind of confused. The way it looked like you were moving around, but I was saying, no, I don't think they figured out like how not to make you sick. A lot of VR developers are kind of shying away, to the point where my friend was reading an interview with the guy, one of the designers of the game, and said, no, you move around. And they said, well, just to make sure, you said we're moving around, like we're using the thumbstick? Yeah, you're using the thumbstick. Now, and he kept asking him that because it's a big deal. Like developers are kind of spooked to make people sick right now, and they're trying to figure out the best practices are. So this game, you can move with the DualShock. You can use that. You can also use, there's an attachment, which that was the first thing that I saw that, after the show, the conference, that I went, wow, this thing is going to let you walk around. I thought it was going to be on rails, but sure enough, you can move. And I think because it's in space, you're moving slower, that the motion sickness is not, you're not going to maybe feel it. Or they figured it out to, release this as a full game. So very excited for that. So they're showing all these VR titles, Batman, all this stuff. But then they show this very spooky game, which you can see, I'm a pansy watching that play through. And they get to the end of it, and it's Resident Evil 7. And I'm not the hugest Resident Evil fan, but I got so excited because Resident Evil 6, I did play the demo on that, and again, all of the kind of reviews and criticism on that were so well deserved because it was trying to be everything, and this game felt like a back to basics horror. It also said, you know what, screw everyone, because I think one of the sound bites from one of the designers of Resident Evil 7 said, we listened to Resident Evil 6 and 5 too, I think, for a little bit of people. We tried to be everything, try to make Resident Evil this or make it be this, but now we're making it what we think Resident Evil should be. And some people were like, oh, it needs to go back to this. Shut up. This is the only way this series could come back, was to just flip everything upside down and go, VR, you can play the whole thing in VR. Oh, you're first person. Who are these people? They're not Leon Kennedy that we're used to. Awesome. What a way to do Resident Evil. So cool. This could very well be what Resident Evil 4 was for the series, which was changing everything up in almost like a mini reboot kind of way. Crash Bandicoot is back. Didn't get that reaction. That would have been a good one to get. So pumped. And here is the discussion about this. So they showed it. They're remastering Crash Bandicoot 1, Crash Bandicoot 2, and Crash Bandicoot Warped. 3 is Warped. And I loved those games as a kid. They're my favorite. Crash Bandicoot 2 is my favorite PS1 game. And I am A-okay with the getting remasters of these, checking these out, seeing what they have to offer. I guess we're working with Activision into these. And here's the thing. People were pissed because then right after it said, well, first he's going to show up in Skylanders. I get it. I get the kind of like bummer to hear that. And people were even saying, oh, Crash will be back in Skylanders as a joke. And here it is leading up to the announcement. But they have to gauge interest, and I feel like these 3 remastered games will bring maybe new fans. It'll bring younger people that'll go, hey, these games are really fun. And in doing that, I think that it allows for the potential, and I think it already has come out. There was articles I was reading that said this is going to gauge interest. There could be a whole new Crash Bandicoot game. I hope that Naughty Dog can get their hands on that versus Activision. I don't really like Activision. And I'd like to see a Naughty Dog, like them go back to the roots and try this out again. I think it's time for a whole new kind of Crash game using updated graphics and designs. Man, they started showing Call of Duty, which I didn't know was Call of Duty. I'm sick of that series. Not that the games are bad, but they come out every year. And they showed all this cool space stuff. And you can see it in our reaction video that we all come to the same realization at the same time of, oh my gosh, we've been watching Call of Duty and crack up. They even made us excited about Call of Duty. So the Sony conference already was winning at this point for me. Still not going to get it. I'm not going to get it, but I got to hand it to them. They did a really good job, like a new way to show Call of Duty and get people excited about that. Before they could just say, a new Call of Duty. That doesn't have the same ring anymore. It doesn't have the same weight. So to do this was cool, along with the Modern Warfare 1 and 2 remasters, which people knew about. But that'll be a big, I think people will grab that. Next up, Retribution for Kojima. They announced Kojima's coming out. He comes out on the stairway. You can see our reaction to that is just freaking out because I didn't expect him to be there at all. Like, they just started that company. How are you going to have time in like 3 months or whatever to put anything together? So to see him there was a huge surprise. Nobody knew that was going to happen. And I didn't see any leaks about a lot of this stuff. They did a really good job kind of keeping those leaks under control. And he comes out on this light stage. He says, I'm back. And everybody's just clapping. It just felt so good to see him back up there after all the crap he went through Konami. This felt like yes. Like, I was so excited for him. Excited for me to experience whatever he has to come out. And he says, oh, yeah, I got something in real time. Oh, and it's Norman Reedus, butt naked, grabbing a kid. He just had a C-section. 5 people floating up in the air. I'm totally in. That is the perfect game. 10 out of 10. I haven't even played it yet. So that'll be something also that'll be, 4 years out, 5 years out before that comes out. So, but I did like what I see. I'm surprised they got that thrown together so quick. Wow. Really cool. Spider-Man. We didn't get the reaction on there, but my friend Kenny that's in the video, he freaked out. He is a huge Spider-Man fan. I never played the Spider-Man 2 game. That was the big one where you're going around the city, kind of Grand Theft Auto-esque. That game I didn't play it, but I knew the impact of it. People said this was so fun, flying around the city. I liked Spider-Man as a kid. I'm a big Spider-Man guy. But, so I was just ecstatic when this got announced because Insomniac's working on it. I'm totally in on that. So, very cool. I'm very excited. They also showed a Star Wars Episode 7, which I'm not interested in, but it's there. There you go. And they ended off with the Days Gone thing, which I'd be so nervous. The gameplay to show fighting all these zombies. I don't know how you would get to learn how to play that well enough. I'd be way too nervous. Again, that game I'll keep an eye on, but it doesn't super interest me too much. I really had a great time watching that conference. It was so fun to watch the orchestra. When they would show gameplay, they had on the sidebar the guy playing it, shots of the audience, and then the gameplay, the biggest thing on the screen. It's like, why can't everyone else figure that out to not cut away from gameplay, live gameplay, to shoot back? They still did that at times, I believe, but very rarely. Nobody noticed it, and I think everybody needs to do that figure that out. As a videographer, I'm not that great. I really am not. And I can look at that and go, don't do that, please. So Sony's conference, another A+. Compared to last year, I still like last year's. We got Final Fantasy VII Remake, Shenmue 3, and Last Guardian. One of those would have brought down the house, but we got 3. So that, to me, 2015 is still my favorite E3. But this was the most consistently, this was a very, even more consistently well done conference, and I would put it up there with it. I think it just, game after game, they didn't waste time, people coming out and saying, hi, my name is George, and I made this game called Jelly Shooter, and I made it in my basement. And you know what I mean? Just shut up. We get it. Put those elsewhere, those videos elsewhere on the conference, game after game after game. I was seeing people saying, yeah, they should have had more people come out, or Microsoft really killed it and Sony sucked. What planet are you on? Man, I'm not a fanboy, but how can you look at both of those and see some guy come out and saying, hey, my game, and we're going to really put shooting in it. You're going to shoot things and bullets, and man, have you ever drove a car before? Buzz off. Sony was giving us game after game after game, way better than Microsoft's. I don't care who you are. Had a great time at Sony's. So the following day, we were laughing. My friend did come over. I didn't get reactions of it because it was more of a live stream thing, and that was Nintendo's. And Nintendo, they started off with Pokemon, which it's Pokemon. I own all the Pokemon games. I really like those games. Man, was there enough stuff to do that, to show that? I guess so, but I kind of just was bored to tears about 10 minutes into that. So they decided to only show Zelda. Then they started with the Zelda, and they gave it the subtitle. It is Zelda: The Breath of the Wild, and it's for Wii U and NX. And what we saw of it, the trailer was kind of weird. There was a part, and you guys might know what I'm talking about. It goes black, and then the music changes. It almost feels like an error, and I feel like maybe it was, and they just didn't cut it out because it's an awkward change. But the trailer looked really cool. The graphics are great. I'm ready to hop back into a Zelda game. And the frame rate kind of spooked me. The frame rate is kind of jarring on this, to the point where when we were watching the live stream, we were screaming, don't look at the water, don't look at the water, because every time they kept looking at the water, it was dropping a lot of frames. And we didn't know if it was the kind of stream or whatever, but people, I think I just saw they did a frame rate test, and it was dropping a lot of frames. They still have till March, so optimization does happen kind of later into the life cycle of the game, so I will give them more time to see how that goes. But it's weird coming from Nintendo. This generation was the first generation where Nintendo they couldn't optimize. It felt like they were kind of dropping frames, and I never really saw that in a Nintendo game too much. I don't remember seeing that before this generation. Yoshi's Woolly World, I was seeing that. Super Mario 3D World, that happened a couple times. So that kind of spooked me, the frame rate stuff, so we'll see how that goes. But they're showing moving rocks. You can, later it was revealed in an interview with Anoma saying, you can run straight to the final boss if you want and beat the game. And that is cool, because that was what a big part was between Two Worlds on the 3DS, was you can start this dungeon, you can go over here, that, giving that choice to the player. Again, back on Days Gone, Hitman, blah, blah, blah. That choice to the player, very cool, and I will be picking this up. But it will be interesting to see if the Wii U version still has those frame rate issues, and the NX version is the one that they kind of tailored more towards development. I hope they don't do that, because people were waiting a long time for this, and that would be a bummer. So we'll just have to see. It will look nicer on the NX from interviews. They said it'll be visual changes or whatever. They're not saying much. That's what's going to be, visual changes. A lot of the changes are going to be in that regard. We'll see what the NX is, though. But so Nintendo's was kind of non-existent this year. They showed Zelda. I thought that looked neat, and it got talked about the most, so people seemed to enjoy what they were showing. More of the open world Zelda. It seems like a Demon Souls mixed with Metal Gear. It's a whole big deal. So that's my thoughts on E3. I think Sony was first. I would give Microsoft even second, and Nintendo third, because Nintendo had 1 or 2 games to show. But thank you guys for watching. I had a great time at this E3, but again, there was a lot of stuff where it's what are we doing still in 2016 doing some of this stuff? And let me know what you guys think. Watch that reactions video if you want. It's pretty fun. We had a good time, putting that together. And I think next year I'm going to be showing, doing more recording of the other conferences when I'm hopefully not on vacation at the same time. So thank you guys. Dweebo out. Let me know what you think of E3. Do you like E3? Maybe E4 will come out next year. We can only hope.
One more exciting piece of news. All week, we're giving Xbox Live Gold members